today. Kind of late in the day over here for me, early in the morning for you guys, so hopefully it'll be a great day. So Paul, I want to thank you and your company again. We're really looking forward to having you represent RapidFire Tools. And what I'm going to cover today is more of an educational webinar on how solution providers and MSPs can use and do use IT assessments in their business to both grow their business, find additional projects, and retain customers. I hope you find the content useful. I'm then also going to follow it up and kind of do an introduction to Network Detective for you, show you what it looks like from a PowerPoint perspective anyway, and we'll take some questions at the end. So very quickly, just a little bit about our company. We were founded by Michael Mattel, former MSP, and so we really do have that solution provider and MSP mentality at the helm of our company, so to speak. In fact, I sold managed services for a little while myself too, so I'm somewhat familiar with the issues that MSPs have today, whether it's here in the U.S. or over by you guys. We really are focused on tools specific for the service provider community and really are committed to y'all. We partner with the leading PSA vendors, whether you're using Autotask or ConnectWise or others, and also the monitoring vendors. You know, we're really tight with the folks at GFI Max, for instance. And I was down and met Paul, may have met some of you earlier this year. At this point, we've got thousands of folks who really count on Network Detective in their business. And the reason it's become so popular is because there's so many different ways to update, unfortunately. So there are a number of ways that service providers use IT assessments, closing the deal, and then some more specific and specialty pieces as well. So actually, I'm at a conference here and was just talking to some folks, and one of the key things or the top things that the MSPs are telling us is that, you know, they're really looking to grow their business. And that's no surprise here, at least. And one of the ways, of course, that you're going to grow your business is by good marketing and lead generation. So in order to do lead generation, you need good marketing. You need a good message. You need, of course, to have a good list, but you also need to have a good, what we call to action, something that's going to get somebody to respond to your email or to your direct mail, take your phone calls, and invite you inside. And if you've ever Googled you know, any of the competitors in your area, I think you might find that they offer discounted or free network audits as a call to action, something that's going to entice a customer to let you come in and present to them, you know, what you can do as a business. And if you think about using an IT assessment as a call to action, it's really too perfect, because you're going to provide something of value to the potential customer. You know, you're going to, you know, let them know how good their IT is working today, sort of a third-party view. And what I would suggest you do is, of course, you offer them a no-obligation proposal if there's any problems. But at the same time, you get a chance to look under the hood, so to speak. You know, take a look and see what's going on the network. Look for potential problems, poor configuration, bad IT management, or even security holes that may be there. And so, you know, offering an IT assessment, it's great because, you know, again, if you were going to put together a proposal, you would really need to know what's on that network anyway. So it's really almost too perfect. The only downside to that is, you know, without the right tools, doing IT assessments can be extremely time-consuming. And who likes to build reports anyway? So we think the right tools are really necessary if you're doing IT assessments, and they should be non-threatening and non-invasive. So when you go to a prospect's network, you're not going to make any changes to the network. It should be quick. So if you're going to use a data collector that is going to gather information automatically, it should finish up in about an hour or so, in that allotted time for your sales call. Of course, it should make you look good. And then should give you reports that you can bring back to your customer with issues, but automatically creates these reports that are something you can share with them, that identifies potential issues, but also documents the network and fulfills that promise of an IT assessment that you offered. The only thing I'd also say is definitely make sure that if you are doing IT assessments as lead gen, don't give all the details. Leave behind just the executive summary, because you don't want them to be able to take your hard work and give that to their existing IT guy and say, you know what, you're my IT guy, I pay you, go fix these things. Really you want them to have to come to you to do that. Whether you are doing IT assessments as a lead generation or not, if you're putting together a proposal, doing an IT assessment's almost critical, because if you don't know what's on the network, it's very easy to put together a proposal that's going to get you in trouble, because I think you really need to know how many workstations, how many servers are on the network, how old are they, what applications are they running, are there potential security holes and other vulnerabilities based on the way it's set up that you're going to have to spend time fixing. Check Active Directory too, because there's a lot going on there. Maybe it's too complex or not well designed and complex enough to manage the size of the organization you're going to be bringing on. So I think doing an IT assessment really gives you an idea of what's on that network so that you can propose that relationship properly. One of our customers recently told me, prior to having Network Detective, they did a walkthrough, kind of counted the computers. There's 2 servers, there's 43 workstations. And they put together a proposal, in U.S. terms, it was probably $1,500 a month kind of thing. And then they came to find out that one of those servers wasn't just a server sitting there, a file server, it was a Hyper-V. And they had, I think, 4 or 5 servers hosted on that one piece of hardware. So they had to go back, and instead of it being, $1,500 a month kind of managed service, they had to use the true-up in their contract and really up the price of that to well over $2,000 a month, like I think $2,500, $2,400 a month. What a horrible way to start an engagement with a new customer, just because you really didn't know what was on that network. A lot of our customers also use IT assessments in actually closing the deal. So if you think about it, it's almost too perfect. You do an IT assessment as part of your lead gen. You have the information to build a winning proposal, and now you're on site, you're sitting in front of the CEO or the CFO, whoever the stakeholder is that you're selling to, and you've got all the information to back up your proposal. You can document issues in their current environment. And maybe these issues might be things like stale users in Active Directory. And what I mean by that is accounts that are still enabled and active, but that somebody hasn't used in more than 30 days. So those are probably people who are no longer employed at that company. And so if you can show these issues and then discuss the implications of that, I think it really helps you close the deal, because it makes you more than an IT person. In that same instance, we as IT professionals understand that, an ex-employee with active credentials, this guy could get on the network either remotely, or if he's nearby and on wireless, he could log in. If he went to a competitor, maybe he has access to sales information, proposals that he could steal business from. So that's a loss of revenue. Or if it was an employee that was recently fired or told to leave, this person might be very unhappy, and if they found out that they could get on the network, they could either steal information or they could delete sensitive information, so they could really cause a lot of trouble on the network. So I think discussing the implications to the business owner can really help you close the deals when it ties back to the things that you find from your IT assessment. And of course then having the details there as well, really backs up the items in your executive summary makes you look good. So it shows that you've got all of the detail, really sets you apart from competition, and demonstrates how thorough you were in gathering that information. So it really can be a terrific thing for closing deals. And once you've closed and won the customer, now you're going to bring them on, and you need to train your staff, your help desk staff, on the new customer. So having this IT assessment now as an onboarding document is terrific, because you've got a consistent approach to documenting all of your customers. You can use this to train your help desk staff, import that information into your PSA system, whether it's Autotask or ConnectWise, whatever it is. Get that information in there so that you're up and running and ready to support that new customer immediately. You could document the computers that they have, what's in them. You can document the users. So having all that information is absolutely terrific. Things like security groups and whatnot. Get you up and running immediately. And like I said, that consistent documentation really makes a difference as you grow your business. When we first started off, our focus was developing Network Detective so that people could use it in pre-sales. And turns out we had a lot of our customers explain to us that there's a ton of value in running this regularly on your existing customers. Some examples on that would be, often we see the end users bringing equipment onto the network that they don't tell the MSP about. And you may end up supporting users and supporting computers that you're not getting paid to support, so you can use it to true up. You can find security issues on a regular basis, and of course make sure that those get fixed, because that's part of your job. And let your customers know that you've got a tool that automates this process. Show them those sample reports, the executive reports. Say this is going to be something we do on a regular basis, is give you these as part of our quarterly business reviews so that we're auditing ourselves. And it's important to do that. If you think about it, we often will make somebody admin for a day, and then so that they can, for instance, install some software. Or a user is let go from an organization and they forget to tell you, or maybe they told one of your technicians and they forgot to create a ticket. So this person, now we're back to having stale users in Active Directory. Doing this audit on yourself and having these checkpoints can make sure that you're doing a terrific job managing the environment and don't get caught creating potential security issues for your customers. IT assessments, whether you do these on your existing customers or on prospects, will often identify potential issues and new projects come out of that. So these could be Active Directory cleanup, security policy consistency fixes, migrations, software or hardware upgrades and refreshes. So there's a lot of projects that come out of this. You can document what's there. You know how to propose that better. And what I would say is, once you're done, run your assessment again so that you've got the documentation on the new environment. And it also can help you show that the work's been done, and maybe help you get paid faster as well. If you've got the right tools, you might also can add things like a managed security service to your business. And we have a lot of folks that use Network Detective to do that, because with Network Detective, you're able to gather information on security on the network without having to have very expensive security experts on staff. And so that security health checkup is something that I think most MSPs can charge additional monthly recurring revenue for, because it's probably not something that's in your contracts today to provide. So doing things like an external vulnerability scan, regularly testing the outbound ports and protocols that are exploited by phishing scams and robots and malware, and closing all those down, documenting that things are done on a regular basis. And I think, again, in U.S. terms, we see people charging $100 a month, $199 a quarter, and higher to do this. And so, one customer can help you pay for the tool and then you've got it as additional profit for all your other customers. Another idea is to build a managed security service and use it as a wedge to get into new accounts. So, perhaps there are customers in your area that you would like to do the work for, but you're having a hard time getting in because they've got an existing IT staff that they like. If that other company is not doing security for that potential customer of yours, and you provide a managed security service, this might be a way for you to get in, make some money doing security for them, and then over time build trust and take over that account entirely. So, the world's definitely moving toward the cloud more and more these days. IT assessments can play a key role here. So a lot of times people are starting off doing exchange migrations to the cloud, and having documentation on the existing exchange environment can really help you out. One, you'll know how to propose it, how much data you're moving, what folders need to be created in the new environment, all the settings that need to get replicated in the new environment. And so having that IT assessment on the existing exchange environment is going to help you know that things were done properly once you've got the new environment. And like I said before, once you've done the migration, run the assessment again afterwards. You can do a comparison of the results. You've got the documentation now of the new environment in the cloud. Helps you get paid faster. Other things, maybe you're doing a hybrid or a full cloud migration. So I think you really need to know what you're going to be moving, what applications are going to be moving, so that you can propose it properly, so that you can scope the work, put together your project plan, and at the end of the day, run the assessment again afterwards to make sure that things were done properly, so that on the cutover date, everything's ready to go without issues. Once again, have that documentation for your staff to show that the migration was done properly and you know what the new environment looks like in the cloud. Some other ideas for IT assessments. It would be a SQL Server kind of health check. So if you've got the right tools, and we do offer a module on SQL Server health checkups, it allows you without DBA expertise to be able to document what's going on in a SQL Server environment. Potentially look for problems in the environment that you can then fix, or you could contract out to somebody who could fix it on their behalf. But the idea here is to document that the SQL Server environment is set up and running well, that there's things like fragmentation aren't a problem, that tables aren't missing indices. So those are the kinds of things that our tool can document for you. It's easy to take a look and see what's there and know if you need to call somebody in on a project basis to make changes to the environment. And of course it tells you when you need to do that. And before I talk about the HIPAA is not going to make sense. PCI is something that also might be of interest to you. PCI stands for the payment card industry. They require an annual risk analysis in most cases, and if you've got customers that, especially if they store credit card information, Visa, MasterCard, all the different credit card companies do require that the networks and the environments are compliant with the DSS regulations to make sure that that credit card information is safe inside that company. It happens here a lot. This is the third time this year that I'm getting new credit cards from one of my banks because there was a breach from some small vendor somewhere. And of course that's a real pain. One, my personal information has been compromised. I didn't lose any money, but any automatic payments, it's a real chore to have to deal with. And by offering these services to your customers, is something that you can make money doing the risk analysis for. But also, typically you're going to find problems, and on a project basis, you can make money fixing those. Further, in any of the larger companies that are working with PCI, you can probably put together a compliance as a service and do this on a quarterly basis, and of course make sure that they remain compliant to help prevent breach of information. So those are a number of different ways that our customers are using Network Detective in their businesses to help their customers, but also to retain customers and bring on new customers. But IT assessments can take a lot of time to do. I mean, you've got your data collection, which typically takes an engineer to go out, log into machines, and then when you're done gathering the information, somebody's got to put together the reports, analyze the data, and then build the reports. With Network Detective, we really make this very easy for you. Network Detective automates both the data collection and the report generation, as you'll see, and it's designed to be easy to run. It's non-invasive, which is very important in a situation where they're not your customer yet, if they're your prospect. That way you're not making changes to the network. The current IT folks won't know you were there. And we generate really compelling reports that are at a high enough level that can be shared, again, with the CEO or the CFO at your customer site. These are completely brandable, so they're going to be from you to your customers. Now, I often get asked this question. So I've got Logic Now or GFI Max, or I've got Kaseya or Laptop or some other monitoring system. How is Network Detective different from that? Why would I need Network Detective if I have these monitoring systems? Well, the answer, there's a couple of reasons for it. First off, in a prospecting situation, certainly you could go in and install Kaseya agents or Max agents or probes from your monitoring system. But what does that cost in terms of the extra licenses you need, let alone the engineering time to go out and install these licenses, or these agents rather, on all the machines or a number of machines at a potential customer site? So first off, you've got the engineering time. Then what happens if something goes wrong after you've been out and installed agents? So they're likely going to come back to you and think that it was something that you did that caused the problem. And now we all know it's probably not the fault of you or the monitoring software, but once again, you're the one that made the last change. They're going to look for you to do that. Consider too, if you don't win the deal. Now you've got to go out and remove those agents. Again, costing you time and once again making a change to the network. Another thing about using it in upfront prospecting before they're a customer. The current IT person is going to know that you were there, and that's probably something that the prospect does not want you to know. Now, on the other hand, in a customer situation, Network Detective is very complementary to your monitoring system because it's going to find things and document things that your monitoring systems don't do, such as external vulnerability scan with our security module or internal IP port scan. The information out of Active Directory. These are all things that RMM systems don't do, and so you've got beautiful reports from Network Detective that can go great with your SLA information out of your PSA system like Autotask or ConnectWise, and then also any performance issues from your monitoring system. All this makes a terrific package for your regular business reviews that goes to customer retention. So again, it's far superior in prospecting and very complementary in customer situations. Let me show you what this looks like. So you can start off with the external vulnerability scan. You simply enter the IP ranges in our cloud server. By the way, and it can also be scripted in customer situations. Once you're on site, you would run our data collector. This can be done from any Windows machine. What you'll do is you'll provide domain admin credentials so that we can gather information from Active Directory and also connect via WMI to the other machines on the network. You can typically click next through most of these, but you know, if you've got larger environments, you can be more specific about what domains. Most people don't ever worry about that. We'll do a whois and MX record check. We'll pull the information for the IP range that needs to be scanned from the machine that you're running the data collector from. You can either verify that, just click next, or if you're wanting to you know, scan, let's say, remote locations, you can enter other IP ranges here. We'll use SNMP to gather other information on non-active directory devices, MBSA to do missing patches and weak local password check. At that point, again, next, next, next predominantly, and it's ready to run. So the data collection, I think I mentioned this already, it takes about an hour on a network with, let's say, 20 to 60 people and a single subnet. Very quick, non-invasive, creates a zip file that you're going to bring back to your office, and that's where you're going to run the Network Detective application. So once you've got Network Detective up, but you'll see that you have in this interface, each customer would have its own site. So this is a new customer, you would click New Site, enter the information for the new site. Once that's done, you're going to start the new assessment. Pick what the assessment type you want it to be. Click Import File. And here's where you're just going to simply browse to the data that was collected by the data collector, import that, click Generate Reports, and here's where you set up the reports. So first off, you're able to customize this. So you put the customer's name in, report prepared by you, of course, and then you'll also be able to upload your own logo that's going to go on each of these reports, both for the header and on the cover pages. You can change, select from a number of different themes that are available, change the colors. We have cover images that you can use to tailor the reports to verticals if you're doing verticals. So, you know, we have legal, automotive, retail, hospitality, healthcare. So different images there to really customize it and make it look good. At that point, you click Generate Reports, and you're done. So Network Detective automates the data collection process and also completely automates the report generation. Let me just show you what a couple of the reports look like. What we're looking at here is an example of what we call the risk report, which is your executive summary that you would provide to your customer. Your logo in the top left up here, showing on the page. There's a risk score on the network, and you don't have to be an IT expert to know that a risk score that's in the red is bad. Even CEOs know that. Then the tool provides a list of the issues along with recommendations on what needs to be done to fix those issues. You know, once again, this is things like 87 computers were found as having not checked in during the past 30 days, and it goes on to explain what that means. Those are the stale users. You know, maybe 25 machines that don't have antivirus, or 44 computers detected having one or more critical patches. So it actually identifies these risks that you can share in a prospective situation. It then goes on and creates the rest of the report. It's going to be charts and graphs. It makes it look like you spent a ton of time gathering this information and putting it together. Really makes you look good. And after all, it's an executive summary. This is the kind of information that they're looking to see. And if you're putting together a proposal for a monthly managed service, you're going to tie your pricing back to the number of users or computers active on the on that network. So this ties very nicely to your proposals. Let me share just a few pages out of the full detail report, which is really kind of the main report in the network assessment module, which you would use for your onboarding, sharing with your level 1, level 2 folks so that they know what the new environment is, and also gives you the backup to any of those risks so that you can look through them easier. So one of the things we do is we pull the list of users from Active Directory. And what you're seeing here is the list of users, and you're going to note that our tool doesn't just create reports, it also does some analysis and highlights potential issues in red. So what you're seeing there on like the 4th or 5th row, B Miner, Bill Miner, he has an account that's enabled and has not been used within the last 90 days, or 30 days rather. And so once again, this documents, here's a person that's probably no longer employed, but has access to the network. And if they only knew that, they could get in and, again, steal information. We list the security groups and all the members in the security groups. So it's very easy to see, is everybody an admin or a domain admin? Or in going back to referencing and onboarding, you know exactly who's in what group and how many groups there are. Computers and domain. So this is a list of the computers that you'd be supporting. Then the non-active directory devices. This would be the printers, routers, switches, that type of thing that's on the network. I think we're lagging our screens a little behind. There we go. Network Detective also will pull the applications that are running on the different machines on the network and highlights in bright yellow the applications that are on 3 or more computers. So you can very easily see what the more common applications are. We'll do a password strength assessment and identify any machines that have potentially weak local passwords that could be a vulnerability. It does a missing patch scan and identifies machines that have missing patches on the network. We also look at antivirus and anti-spyware, so you can see what's in use at an account and what machines may not have antivirus on them. There's also a built-in data explorer within the tool so that you can work with the data interactively. You can drill down into, let's say the users, drill down into the applications. So if you want, we can click on, what's Office Professional Plus and see, which machines are actually running that particular application and what version they're on. And you can also output this to clipboard, put it into Excel or to Word, and run some of your own ad hoc reports. All right, let me talk a little bit about Network Detective and how it's built and how you might purchase it, what you might purchase. So today we have 7 modules. Really, for the purposes of this presentation, I've been focusing on the Network Security Exchange and SQL Server Assessment modules. Those would be our IT assessment modules. We do offer some other modules, which include the HIPAA, which is certainly not relevant in your region, because that ties to our healthcare laws. But there's also the PCI compliance module and a piece of hardware that Paul and his team can explain to you if you have more interest. So my focus is more on the IT assessment modules. Excuse me. Each module has its own set of reports that pertain to the module. So the network module is that general purpose network and discovery module. The client risk report is the executive summary. We offer a management plan which shows the specific pieces that need to be fixed for each issue. Then we get into the full detail report, which we kind of looked at a few screenshots on. I also should mention we provide all that information in the full detail report as an Excel export too, so that you can filter, sort, search, do what you need to with the data. If you need to pull information out to put it into PowerShell scripts, we want to make this as easy as possible for you. And of course, you can output some of this information into your PSA system directly. So we integrate with Autotask, ConnectWise, and TigerPaw. The security module ties very well with the network module for prospecting, but also becomes the centerpiece for a managed security service. It gives you an external vulnerability scan, does outbound egress check, documents with the share permissions what users have access to what data. CFOs love that report, and also does login success failure by computer and user. The Exchange module has a number of reports, also has a lot of stuff in Excel to make it real easy to understand what's in an Excel environment and communicate that to the users or use it as part of your migration. Again, the SQL Server would be very useful for that regular health check for SQL Server, and you really don't have to be an expert in SQL Server to use this.
So I think at this stage we'll unmute and see if there's any questions from the floor. Tyron, can you do that for us, please, mate?
Sure thing. Guys, if you just want to pop up your hand using the GoToWebinar dashboard, I'll unmute you and you can fire your questions at Paul and Mark. Otherwise, just type your questions into the chat box and I'll read them out. First question, I see that the data collector is using .NET 2. How does that work where Windows 7 Plus doesn't have .NET 2.0 installed by default? Does that mean that it won't scan everything?
Okay, so that's a good question. Now, actually, we do require .NET 3.5, which has been around for a long, long time. I was not aware that Windows 7 didn't have it. It was my understanding that the more contemporary OSs do have .NET installed by default. However, it's a great question. If .NET is not there, the scan's not going to be able to be run from that machine. But the way it works is the data collector typically gets run from in a domain-based network. It's going to be run from either the domain controller or another server or any Windows machine. As long as that machine has .NET 3.5, it's going to be able to use WMI to connect to the other machines that are on the network to pull back those details. And you know, this is a great lead, and someone else asked he's interested in how the tool would work in a workgroup environment. In a non-domain environment, what you're going to do is we still require the network scan to be run from one of the machines. So let's say there are 10 systems in the workgroup environment, and the good news is workgroup environments are typically small. Not always the case, but usually the case. What you're going to do is run the network scan from one of those, because it becomes the centerpiece of the data collection, and you would do a local scan on the other systems in the environment. And you can perform the local scan, you know, either prep a second thumb drive and run the local collection on each of those individually. They take 2 to 3 minutes typically per system, so that can happen while the network scan is going on. Alternately, if, as is the case in a lot of workgroup environments, they've been set up to where the administrative credentials are the same on all the machines. We have a special tool that will push the local collector out, initiate and run the local collection, and then bring that information back and clean up after itself. So, you know, assuming somebody set it up to where local admins are the same across all of those, that can be done centrally as well.
Excellent. So we got another question here, just a bit of a licensing question. Can you up module numbers for a month, i.e. 2 modules for annual, and then, for example, add SQL for 1 month only?
That's a good question. So we do sell the annual subscriptions. We offer a 30-day money-back guarantee that Paul and his team will also honor. So you could try out the SQL for a month and you know, decide it's not something that you want to keep, or decide you did want to keep it. So you could certainly give that a try, but it's not something you can turn on and off. Another question came in, was this an application install or a website? Let me answer that a little differently. So the data collector is an exe that gets run from either a thumb drive, or you can run it, you could RDP into a site and run it that way as well. The data collector is a program that gets run. It takes the domain admin credentials and then sort of does network discovery, connects to the other machines, and grabs the data. It writes out an encrypted zip file. That way, a customer can't look at it without having the application. The network detective application that I refer to is actually an application that gets installed on your site. If you've got 4 people that need to install that, you can certainly do that. We don't limit the number of installs for the network detective application. Again, it's licensed to your company for unlimited use. In that case, though, if you do have multiple people, you can point the tool for each of those people to a network share so that all the data is shared, if that's what you would like to do. And the reason we did it as an application rather than as a website or a web service, when we first launched it, we did make it a web service, and we immediately got pushback that people did not want to share their their customers' data in the cloud. So we did change that to be an application. The data always remains, in your hands. You have full chain of command on that. Someone else asked a terrific question. Can you change report content? What I failed to say, and I apologize for that, the output from Network Detective are native editable docx reports or docx files. So these are going to be able to be loaded in Word, and you ultimately can change whatever you would like within those. I did mention that we output Excel, and of course, that's standard Excel. Lots of data in Excel that way. Let's see. Somebody mentioned very small businesses and non-domain work groups can be scanned. Yes, they can. The reports are going to be still fairly valuable, but I will say that there's certainly less information that's reported in a non-domain environment because there aren't users, there aren't really the network's shares, but you still get all the details about the machines, the various settings, what applications are running. So it's certainly quite valuable both in domain and workgroup environments. Does it do a hardware inventory? Depending upon what you mean by that, I think the answer is yes. What I would suggest that you can do, and Paul, I don't know if you maybe want to type this in. If they would like to take a look at any of the sample reports, we have a special web page, sort of a landing page. If you'll go to rapidfiretools.com/reports, you can take a look at the actual sample reports from the network and the security Exchange and SQL Server. Keep in mind though that what we've posted on that web page are PDFs of sample reports. Like I'm just going to reiterate, what you get from the tool are the editable Word documents, so that you're able to make any changes if you'd like to and do what you want with those. Talking more workstation and server specs. Yes, take a look at the asset detail report under the network module. What you're going to see, that's the information on a machine-by-machine basis. What we're going to pull there is everything, pretty much what you're looking for. Speed and type of the CPU manufacturer, the core count, the amount of memory, the memory slots that are open on the machine or used on the machine. So you're going to get all those kind of details if that's what you're asking for. What is the ConnectWise integration? Fantastic question. So we have 3 integration points from Network Detective into ConnectWise. 2 of them are from the network module. Well, one of them is from the network module. And by the way, yes, Greg, likewise for Autotask, it's exactly the same. So what we're able to do is from the information on the assets, we can create the configurations, ConnectWise terms, or configuration items for Autotask. And so we can populate those for each of the assets. A lot of times if you're using a monitoring solution, you may not want to have us populate the computers, but you could use us to populate the non-active directory devices that the monitoring things aren't going to run on. So you're able to selectively decide what you would like us to create as far as configurations in ConnectWise, Autotask, and TigerPaw. The next integration point we have is from the Exchange module. So once you have a new customer, one of the things you need to do, of course, is you've got to enter the users for that customer in ConnectWise or Autotask or whatever you either of those. From the Exchange module, we will auto-create, I should say, the users for the company. So first name, last name, email address, and any other information that's relevant. From Exchange, we can put as far as that user record. So it saves a lot of typing and potential errors in entering that information. The other integration point we have is from any of the modules. As I mentioned, we have what's called the risk report, which is the executive summary. Each module has one. So any risks that are found, let's say for the network module, you can selectively decide which ones you want to create tickets in your PSA for. And so you can either create a single ticket with multiple issues, or you could create a separate ticket for each issue. And again, you selectively decide which issues are included in that ticket creation. So that way you can automate that, track that the work gets done, and bill for it if that's appropriate. So hopefully that makes sense. And by the way, it's far easier to do than it was for me to explain it.
All right, look, thank you all very, very much for attending. One last question in there from Eric. What is a good deal? Well, it's a pretty good deal already, Marek. I think you'll see some massive value out of it. It's very well priced, and the ideal thing about it is there is no limitations on the amount of times you can use it during the time of your subscription to it. So I'll be in touch with you all to see if there's any further follow-up involved, but please don't hesitate to email me directly or to rapidfiretools@softsol.co.nz for any further input requirements. And thank you all very much for attending. Mark, thank you very much for your time. It's greatly appreciated.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Yeah, there was one other question, and I'm happy to do it. So if you would like, if anybody wants the slides, if you would contact Paul at the email address there, he can provide you a PDF of the slide deck.
Correct. Thank you very much, Mark.
Well, listen, Paul, thanks for putting this on. Look forward to working with you and all of your customers. Thanks so much.
Thank you. And thanks, everyone, for attending. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.